This is obviously, as I was saying, and as our correspondent Pete Williams there was describing, quite the decision, quite the historic decision. Let's start out a little bit about what we know regarding this case, the case Bostock versus Clayton County, Georgia. What more can you tell us of what was at stake here at this in this decision?
Well, this was an incredibly important decision when it comes to the scope of federal employment discrimination law, particularly after Justice Kennedy left the Supreme Court. This is the single most important civil rights law when it comes to employment. The court's conservatives had, to be honest, been expected not to hold that gays and lesbians were protected. There's a separate case that's now pending that involves transgender individuals that we should get a ruling in any second in to see whether or not the Supreme Court has protected them under the same statute. But this is a law that applies throughout the country and can affect the daily life of basically every gay and lesbian adult in the country, because it was permissible in a lot of the country to simply fire them on that basis under federal law, and the only protections would be available from the states.
All right, and I just want to remind our viewers really quickly, just as you mentioned as well, Tom, that we are expecting another Supreme Court decision. That should be coming out in about 3 minutes from now. We'll certainly keep an eye out for that and bring it to you live as soon as that decision is rendered. I want to give our viewers a quick synopsis, though, of what that case that we were just hearing about there, Bostock versus Clayton County, at issue in this decision, which was rendered by a vote of 63, and we'll get to the breakdown of that vote in just a moment, was whether the 1964 Civil Rights Act bars employment discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. And we should note that this is a pretty significant case because it is the first case concerning LGBT rights in this country since the departure of Justice Anthony Kennedy, who was the critical swing vote when it came to marriage equality. I think back in 2019, October 8th of 2019. Tom, let's talk about this vote. 6-3. Pete Williams there making the point that Neil Gorsuch joined Chief Justice John Roberts, appointed by President Bush, Neil Gorsuch appointed by President Trump, and joining the 4 other justices, the liberal justices of the court, to render this decision. What do you make of that split?
Well, Justice Gorsuch at the Supreme Court oral argument in the case did seem somewhat sympathetic to the plaintiffs here, just based on the plain language of the statute. He's a very conservative guy, but he did really recognize that the Supreme Court had interpreted the language in the past quite broadly, and there didn't seem to be a fair way to distinguish between prior precedents that had expansively read the scope of the people who are protected by Title VII. So it's no great shock that he is in the ruling, but and it's also a very good sign probably for the plaintiffs in the transgender case, which we'll hear about in just a moment.
Let's talk a little bit about that comparison my colleague Pete Williams made, which was that in some ways, by some analysis, this was a little bit more important than marriage equality because, as he noted, not every gay person in this country wants to get married, but had this decision not come out, gay people in this country could be fired from their jobs without protection. That is no longer the case.
That's right. Pete is just talking about in very practical terms. When you are talking about the rules that apply in every single employment area, every single job in the country of any company of any size, except for some very small companies that are exempted from the statute, you're talking about a statute of monumental importance. The gay marriage rulings, of course, were incredibly symbolically important, and also marriage, of course, has a very special place in family and in our society. But when it comes to the nuts and bolts of the protections for gay and lesbian Americans, it's very, very, very hard to think of a case or a statute that would be more important than this one.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.